After an indiscriminate period of marching through slinking alleyways and dim moonlighted streets, the procession confronted a massive what the heck is that? Seraglio? The palace area was surrounded by an iron grating with a lush garden upon all sides. The group was admitted through the gilded gateway, and Grigner was led along a stone pathway bordered by plush vegetation lustfully enhanced by the moon's shimmering rays. Upon reaching the palace, the group was granted entrance, and after several minutes of explanation, led through several winding corridors to a richly draped chamber. Confronting the group was a short, stocky man seated upon a golden throne. Tapestries of richly draped regal blue silk covered all the walls of the chamber, while the steps leading to the throne were plated with sparkling white ivory. The man upon the throne had a naked wench seated at each of his arms, and a trusted adviser seated in back of him. At each corner of the chamber a guard stood at attention, with upraised pikes supported in their hands, golden chainmail adorning their torsos, and barred helmets emitting scarlet plumes and shrouding their heads. The man rose from his throne to the dais surrounding it. His plush turquoise robe dangled loosely from his chunky frame. The soldiers surrounding Grigner fell to their knees with heads bowed to the stone masonry of the floor, in fearful dignity to their sovereign liege. "Explain the purpose of this intrusion upon my chateau." "Your serenity, resplendent in noble grandeur, we have brought this yokel before you," the soldier gestured to Grigner, "for the redress or all your knowing wisdom and judgment regarding his fate." "Down on your knees, lout, and pray proper homage to your sovereign," commanded the pudgy noble of Grigner. "By the surly beard of Murfk, Grigner kneels to no man," scowled the massive barbarian. You dare to deal this blasphemous act to me? You are indeed brave, stranger, yet your valor smacks of foolishness. I find you to be the only fool sitting upon your pompous throne, enhancing the royal rolling flabs of your belly in the midst of your elaborate luxury, and the soldier standing at Grigner's side smote him heavily in the face with the flat of his sword, cutting short the harsh words, and knocking his battered helmet to the masonry with an echoing clang. The paunchy noble's sagging round face flushed suddenly pale, then pastily lit up to a lustrous cherry red radiance. His lips trembled with malicious rage, while emitting a muffled sibilant gibberish. His sagging flabs rolled like a tub of upset jelly, then compressed as he sucked in his gut in an attempt to conceal his softness. The prince regained his stature, then spoke to the soldiers surrounding Grigner, his face conforming to an ugly expression of sadistic humor. "Take this uncouth heathen to the vault of misery, and be sure that his agonies are long and drawn out before death can release him." "As you wish, sire, your command shall be heeded immediately," answered the soldier on the right of Grigner, as he stated into the barbarian's seemingly unaffected face. The adviser seated in the back of the noble slowly rose and advanced to the side of his master, motioning the wenches seated at his side to remove themselves. He lowered his head and whispered to the noble, "Eminence, the punishment you have decreed will cause much misery to the scum, yet it will last only a short time. Then release him to a land beyond the sufferings of the human body. Why not mellow him in one of the subterranean vaults for a few days, then send him to life labor in one of your buried mines? To one such as he, a life spent in the confinement of the Stygian pits will be an infinitely more appropriate and lasting torture." The noble cupped his drooping double chin in the folds of his brimming palm, meditated for a moment upon the rationality of the counsellor's words, then raised his shaggy brown eyebrows, and turned towards the adviser, eyes aglow. "As always, Agafn, you speak with great wisdom. Your words ring of great knowledge concerning the nature of one such as he, saith the king." The noble turned towards the prisoner with a noticeable shimmer reflecting in his frog-like eyes, and his lips contorted to a greasy grin. I have decided to void my previous decree. The prisoner shall be removed to one of the palace's underground vaults. There he shall stay until I've decided that he's sufficiently simmered, whereupon he is to be allowed to spend the remainder of his days at labor in one of my mines." Upon hearing this, Grigner realized that his fate would be far less merciful than death to one such as he, who was used to roaming the countryside at will. A life of confinement would be more than his body and mind could stand up to. This type of life would be immeasurably worse than death. "I shall never understand the ways of your twisted civilization. I simply defend my honor, and am condemned to life confinement by a pig who sits on his royal ass wooing whores, and knows nothing of the affairs of the land he imagines to rule," lectures Grigner. "Enough of this! Away with the slut before I lose my control." Seeing the peril of his position, Grigner searched for an opening. Crushing Prudence to the sward, he ploughed into the soldier at his left arm, taking hold of his sword, and bounding to the dais, supporting the prince before the startled guards could regain their composure. Agafn leaped Grigner and his sire, but found a sword blade permeating the length of his ribs before he could loose his weapon. The councillor slumped to his knees as Grigner slid his crimson blade from Agnuf's rib-cage. The fat prince stood undulating in insurmountable fear before the edge of the fiery maned comet, his flabs of jellied blubber pulsating to and fro in ripples of flowing terror. "Where is your wisdom and power now, your majesty?" growled Grigner. The prince went rigid as Grigner discerned him glazing over his shoulder. He lived to notice the cause of the noble's attention, raised his sword over his head and prepared to leash a vicious downward cleft, but fell short as the haft of a steel-rimmed pike clashed against his unguarded skull. Then blackness and solitude, silence and shrouding, and ever peaceful reigned supreme. "Before me, Sarah, before me as always," nobly cackled.